Hi guys, Debbie Kunish from Reflections on the Dance. Um, I wanted to share with you guys, something because today is really pretty much, a day that I feel a sense of celebration, and my heart is really full today, and I have felt, a peace and a sense of joy that I have not felt in a really long time. And I will tell you why. And some of you may already have, some, uh, you've probably seen some of what has gone on with things that were on reflections, excuse me, things that were on my personal um, homepage of Facebook yesterday, and maybe Twitter as well, because I was sharing things on Twitter. And I want to thank Mr. Kerry Anderson for sharing his personal memories with with myself and allowing me to share them with all of you, especially on something so significant as yesterday, because yesterday obviously was the 5-year anniversary of Michael's passing. And first of all, I want you guys to realize that I have always believed that Michael was a man of God. He had a strong faith. He was someone who was with God now. And I knew that because Reflections on the Dance would not exist if that weren't the case. Because this was a calling on my life to put this information out there. And I've talked about it a little bit before, and I'm sure that I'll, go into it more in depth in the future. But it was something that was a very strong calling. And during this process, I felt God's presence while creating the site, and very often, very often during that process. And it was something that I'll never I'll never forget. You know, I'll never forget that experience. And recently, I felt called again to revamp the homepage, and mainly because I had so much, so much more information from the past 5 years than I had, previously when I created the site, which was, just weeks after Michael's death. And a little history there, just in case people don't know, is that, I have felt a connection to Michael from a young age, from many years ago, and I never really understood it. I didn't know why I felt that. And then years later, I had some different, had different jobs as I was growing up. And one of the jobs, I worked as a receptionist in an office, and there was a coworker there who somehow we had gotten on the subject of Michael Jackson. Maybe there had been um, video or interview that had been done the night before recently. I can't remember, but I just know that it was in the early 90s that this, during that time. And I remember her telling me, how strange she thought he was, and how, just different things. And this was before the allegations came about, even the 93 allegations. It was earlier than that. And I remember telling her, no, you're wrong. That, I believe that, what you're seeing is not the full picture. And I really would like to have the opportunity to talk to him, to interview him, and to, kind of find out what makes him tick, get into, show who he really is, tell his story the right way. And the interesting thing about that is, at that point, I wasn't writing professionally. I had never interviewed a person in my life at that point. So, it's interesting how I feel that, almost as if, God was planting the seed even back then. And just, probably about a month or so before he passed, I was walking past my television screen, and they had the O2 announcement. They were showing parts of it. And to be honest with you, I had not heard that he was going to tour. And I walked past my television screen. I thought, oh my goodness, we haven't seen him out in the public eye, professionally for a long time. And maybe this is the opportunity now to tell the story. And at this point, I was already conducting interviews, and I had built up, some entertainment contacts that were fairly promising. So I thought, well, it's a long shot, but maybe I should give this a try. And so mentally, I was making a list of, the people I needed to contact to see if I could make this happen. I knew he was going to London for his concerts, and there was talk that he might come back to the States and tour, and then there was other sources that said he wouldn't. But my thought was, well, most likely he's not going to be able to do an interview until either during the process of him touring or after. So I sort of just started out as a mental list of people that I could contact, and trying to just get myself together, my courage together, to undertake something like that, something of that magnitude, to be able to interview Michael Jackson. And I didn't even know if it was possible. I didn't know, I I was a local writer. I wasn't a national writer. I wasn't something that seemed all that plausible to me, but I knew that the people I had interviewed and worked with were very happy with my work, and that was my hope. And so then, as the story goes, a month later, June 25th, I'm sitting on Facebook, and you know, just like all of you, the news, you find out one way or another, and there was talk, posts that were coming across that he had been taken to the hospital for cardiac arrest, and I thought, oh, this, it just didn't make sense to me. I knew he was preparing for this tour, and I thought, well, maybe the strain of preparing for the tour. I knew he was 50, but it didn't register, and I didn't believe it. And it wasn't until my husband came home a few hours later, during that time, people had then announced that he had died, and I thought, no, this can't be. And it was pretty much probably some form of denial, and everybody around the world was feeling that. And when my husband came home and he said, he had been listening to the news on the radio, and he said, did you hear that Michael Jackson died? And I said, no, I heard it, but I don't think it's true. And he said, no, it's true. It's been confirmed. And I just remember just sort of being in the state of absolute shock. And from there, it would lead to, I don't know, weeks of mourning this man and crying. I spent so much time crying, and I would think, my gosh, I did not know him. I never spoke to him. And yes, his music was a part of our lives, and but I didn't fully understand, why I was feeling such a deep mourning and loss, as if it was a family member. That's how it felt. And so, from there, within very short period of time, within a couple of days to a week or so, I was telling my husband, and this part of it was due to things that were coming across my Facebook page or homepage, just really very unkind, untrue comments, and a lot of talk about the accusations and things of that nature, people almost celebrating. I thought, I've got to do something, because this is not true. What I'm seeing come across my screen, I know it's not right, and something has to be done. So, I have to show the truth. So that's sort of how the whole website came about, and there's a lot more to that story, which I'll share at a future date. But during this time, and this is why I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, I want you guys to understand. During this time, I didn't know a whole lot about Michael on a personal level. As I said, I had never spoken to him. I knew what a lot of people knew. In fact, I knew probably a lot less than most diehard Michael Jackson fans knew. I had gotten married in 1991. my life then became about, my husband, my family, my home, building a writing career. I just, it, I wasn't paying as much attention even to music in general, much less Michael and what was going on. So, you know, I had gotten off track with that, and to, um, just to have that all happen and suddenly be faced with having to come up with, now he had passed, and thinking, okay, what is going on here, and then having to create, started to create this site. Um, I started out pretty much. I was on the computer all the time. In fact, this room here is my office, my very messy office. And I hope to organize it one day, and hopefully soon. Now that I've completed or completed a lot of the work, the upgrades, there's still more to come. So there'll be a new links page with a lot more links and a lot more information. I have to work on upgrading and spacing a lot of other pages, that older pages. Of course, the Gavin's friend interview is coming. So those things. But at any rate, this was the room and the very desk that I'm sitting at today, that I spent pretty much my whole life in here for 3.5 months creating this site. And I'm not kidding you, it was day and night. My husband would go to bed. I'd be sitting in here and I'd be placing things, I'd be researching, and he'd get up to go to work, and he'd look in here and he couldn't believe that I was still in here and I was still up. So I got very little sleep during that time. And, I think it's important for people to know too that I did not really talk to many people who knew Michael before the site went live. I relied on my research. I watched a ton of Michael's videos. I wanted to watch to feel his spirit. I wanted to know who this man was. Who is this man? And the people that I spoke with before, there was one friend of his who was a friend for over 10 years, and that particular person did not see the site until it was about 80 to 90% done. So there wasn't a lot of effect on the site at that point from this person. And I had conducted interviews with Larry Nimmer, who was the filmmaker who was hired by Michael's defense to film Neverland, because the judge had ruled that the jury could not physically go and see Neverland, so he had to go film it. And I interviewed Geraldine Hughes, who is the author of Redemption, and she was the legal secretary for Barry Rothman, who was a lawyer, and who happened to be the lawyer that was contacted by Jordy Chandler's father. So she was basically a witness to extortion. She saw some things firsthand that she talks about in her book. And then I interviewed Mr. Mesereau beforehand, and that was, I'm going to be honest, it took me a couple of weeks to get the courage to call him, and I had interviewed Aphrodite Jones as well. And so those were the 4 people that I spoke with before the site went live. But I believe Aphrodite's interview I did not put up until after the site went live, because I hadn't had the time to get it, set up and put on the site. But those were the 4 people that I spoke with, and that was sort of towards the 2 to 3 month mark. So I had done a lot of the site prior to speaking to them. And going back to what I was saying about calling Mr. Mesereau, I had, when I had spoken to Aphrodite Jones, I said, "Do you think that Mr. Mesereau would be willing to speak with me?" And she said, "Well," she said, "give it a try," and she told me, she gave me his website, and I went on there, and probably took me 2-3 weeks at least to get up the courage to call, because my thought was, you know, this is a big time lawyer, and this was Michael Jackson's lawyer, and he defends all these celebrities, and I'm a local writer. He's not going to know me from anywhere. He's not going to know anything about me. How will he trust me to speak to him? And so the day came, and I finally picked up the phone and kind of took a deep breath and dialed, and the secretary said, Mr. Mesereau's on another call. Would you like to leave a message? And I was like, thank you, thank you, Lord, because it was much easier for me to leave a message than to speak to him directly at that point. So I left my message. So I gave him my name, who I was, what I was trying to accomplish, and hung up, and pretty much convinced myself that I was not going to hear back. Come on. So 10 minutes later, the phone rings, and I look at my caller ID, and it said Mesereau, you, and I was shocked and scared, and I didn't, so I picked up the phone, and Mr. Mesereau was really nice and really down to earth, and said, I told him I would like to interview him, and he said, sure, and we set up the interview from there, and now 5 years later, I'm grateful to, have a friendship with him, and that, I look at these things, and I look at the people that were brought into this, and and I tell you this from my heart, and I've tried to relay this so many times before, but I was not, I'm not, I don't take the credit for this stuff. I don't believe that these people came into my life because of me. I believe they came into my life and this picture and reflections on the dance because of God. And going backtracking a little bit here to what the process was creating the site originally, during that time, there were many different things that happened, and there was one significant night that I'll never forget, and that still comes to me at different times. And it had been a particularly bad day. And let me tell you, when you research Michael Jackson, it is a minefield. And especially when you're starting to research him and you find all of this stuff, and most of it's misinformation. But when you're looking at it initially, and this is why I have empathy for the public, in what, in their false beliefs about him, is that some of these articles and things are very convincing. My husband and I would go for walks, after he would get home from work, and had been working on this all night and all day, and I would be so upset, and we would be walking on the path, and I would just, say, I don't know what to believe. I do not know what to believe. And I told him about the things I would find, and we would have these discussions, and I just was beside myself with, what do I believe here? How do I know the truth? And different things would come, and there would be these times where I would think, okay, I've got things, and then all of a sudden I would get these emotions would just come at you, and you would just sort of, sometimes I would even shake and cry, because I would get so emotional. I would know something's coming. Within a couple of hours to the next day, someone would contact me with the information that I needed, or the right information would come across my path. It was just amazing to witness this. And I knew strongly that God was involved in this website, in the information that I had to put out there. So I knew God was involved, and I was starting to get a very clear picture that, Michael was God's. He was a child of God. He believed in God. And I truly believed, early on, from, once I got past these initial spiritual attacks and this pressure that comes with the light versus darkness battle, um, I knew Michael was in heaven and he was okay. But, let me share also that when you are working on something that is about, putting truth out there, um, you're gonna encounter a lot of pressure. There's gonna be a lot of it feels like there's pressure coming in on you from every angle, and it's very spiritual in nature. Um, and creating the site, I experienced that, and doing this site upgrade was no different. In fact, in some ways, doing the site upgrade was even a little bit worse. And I say this because, one of the reasons my heart is so full today is in knowing that our brother, and Michael Jackson, our brother Michael is a brother to all of us, humanity, our brothers and sisters. And knowing our brother Michael is with God and that he had accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior was huge, And it's not that I didn't believe that before. I want you guys to understand that. I knew it in my heart. I knew it in my gut and my spirit the whole time. Reflections on the Dance wouldn't exist without God and without that, without God giving me the right people, the right information. I have been blessed to meet and speak with a lot of people who knew Michael during this time. And again, I'm not taking credit for this, and it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with God. But I want you to understand that these people were brought in because of that, because God knows that the right people have to speak about it in order for people to really get it. And God is continually bringing the right people to speak for Michael. And what Kerry Anderson shared yesterday with me and allowed me to share with all of you, that about his knowledge and certainty that Michael Jackson is in heaven and he is with God, he's with Jesus, is huge. And I had been running errands. I got home and I got Carrie's message, and I have to tell you that I cried, reading that, because it, again, it's not about me not believing that the whole time, because I have. It's about a confirmation from God again. God continually confirms his truths, and he has confirmed this time and time again. And if you want to know a little bit of the history of why this is so significant to me, especially recently, is in redoing this, upgrading this home page. It was a major spiritual battle, and I've told you guys in the video I made yesterday, I've told you guys before, I went kicking and screaming, and there were times that I wanted to give up. I did not want to continue, and I don't know how easy that is for people to understand. If you've done similar projects, if you've had a calling from God and you've done different things, you'll understand it. What I'm trying to say is that, when you're putting truth out there, the darkness does not want that light and that truth to come forward, because in knowing that, the darkness knows that a lot of people will be led to the right direction. They'll be led to God. And the battle of darkness is for, that not to happen, or to take as many people down with, down with the darkness as it can be had, And so to know that, whenever anything with truth is going to be portrayed in God's truth, there's a battle, and it's very real. It's very real, let me tell you. And it threatens to destroy. It threatens to try to put an end to what you're trying to put out there. And the way that, the way that this happens is basically through, there through information that comes across, that comes your path. I mean, I can't tell you how many people were sending me links. People are sending me links to this stuff. And when that happens, you can't, um, you, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, there's certain things, there's certain times where I would say, you know what, don't look at it. Don't look at it. It's a distraction being thrown your way. And then other times you feel weaker and you look. And I came across things, guys, that, and I know, even some of you who are really, really trying to do the right thing and vindicate Michael and put the right information out there. There are things out on the internet that are making Michael out to be someone that he was not. Making him out to be the type of person that is totally opposite of who he was. And some of these are even being put out by fans. Okay, so a lot of that was coming across my desk, across my laptop, and I would start to think, my goodness, do I have it wrong? Have I spent the last 5 years putting out incorrect information? But I knew in my heart that wasn't true. It's like you can know in your heart it's not true, but yet you're still going to be challenged, and there's going to be all of this pressure coming at you to try to make you believe otherwise. That's the difficult part. And that's why I was thanking, some of my friends the other day on Facebook, was that I had a couple of people that were sitting there telling me, Debbie, God is with you. Don't pay attention to this stuff. Stay away from it. There's distraction being thrown your way. Because I battled through that whole thing, and it took a lot of time just to create that page. A lot of the videos that are on there I created, or I cut down and edited portions of video so that I could pull out just the part that needed to be shown. Like, the Martin Bashir documentary, I pulled out the part where Michael speaks about his childhood and his, what he went through and all of those things. I wanted you guys to be able to just click on and view it without having to go through and scroll to a certain, time period in the video. So all of those things were very time consuming. Some of the videos I created myself, pulling pictures, copying things, researching things, talking to people. It was all very time consuming. But on top of that, to have all of these additional things come at me was very disturbing, very upsetting. A lot of it had to do with, all of the, all of the talk about him being a certain type of person, that he, the different accusations that have come out about him fathering, different kids, and then fans trying to prove that this was the case, and that Michael was a womanizer, things of that nature. And, anybody that studies Michael and that talks to people who knew him and who speak from truth from heart, will tell you a different story, a true Michael. And I don't really want to get into all that, but I just want to kind of touch on that to show you guys that there's a lot out there to try to catch your attention, to try to make you believe different things about Michael that are not true. And those things are powerful, because for someone like myself to be working on all of this research, spending all of this time for the past 5 years doing what I've been doing, to have it shake me to my core at times during that's powerful. And I've spent a lot of time talking to people who knew Michael and who have stated the opposite of that. So I just wanted to tell you, that kind of stuff, watch out for it. Just be aware that there's a lot to try to take you off course. So fast forwarding again now to Kerry's, what he shared yesterday. I have had other people share stories about Michael and about Michael's faith, but it's been a while. It's been a while since I've had those stories come to me. Um, and this is a new story, but it's a new story with the same um, same moral of the story. Michael Jackson was a very spiritual man. He was someone who had, goodness in his heart. He wanted to follow God. He was inquisitive. He was always searching, and he spoke about Jesus. He spoke about his faith in Jesus. He spoke about how he spoke about to those who he trusted, and he knew he spoke to them about his faith. And I mean, he's spoken to God about spoken about God to a lot of people, including the Arvizos, who had admitted that, in at different times, different interviews. So this is not, brand new news, but it was an additional confirmation yesterday to get that at a time that, just as I came out of all of this battle, to get that page out there to you guys, and to remember and to connect with God and to say, God, please show me confirmation here, please, because this battle is difficult, and you can have 50 people, 5,000, 10,000, 5 million people saying one thing, but if God says it isn't true, it isn't true. And there's a lot of people out there that are saying things that aren't true, and so, it was interesting to also find out that I had a friend of mine who told me yesterday. She said, I prayed for you yesterday morning because I knew the attack, the spiritual attacks you've come under. I know how much of a battle this has been for you. And she was someone that was with me every day with this. Every single day she gave of her time to listen to me, to talk to me, to help talk me down from the ledge, basically. And and she said, I prayed for you about that. And so to have a couple of hours later after she prayed, to have Kerry contact me and tell me that was just amazing. And I didn't contact Kerry about Michael's faith. I didn't. I contacted him just to tell him, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you and your family today. And I sent, I sent that message to several people that I speak to, who knew Michael. And I knew that, for them, if we're feeling that loss, they're feeling it even more because they knew him personally. So when he contacted me back and we talked about, he shared those stories, that was just amazing to me. And it's amazing to know, to have that confirmation. It's amazing that God keeps confirming those truths over and over and over again. And that's what God does. He will confirm those truths. And, I know sometimes people get upset and say, well, you're trying to prove he was a Christian. And I, trust me, guys, I've been attacked on that many times, because I have a very spiritual, faith-filled element to Reflections on the Dance. And people go on that page and that site and they tell me, I feel a peace there. I feel God's presence there. You know that I couldn't do that by myself. I don't have that kind of power. So, God is on that site. There's presence there, and people feel it, and they know. And that site, would not exist without God, and it's filled with truth. And I can say that because I know that God was the creator of that site. I'm just the vessel. I'm just the vessel he used to create the site. That's it. And so it's to have people who knew Michael, who knew him well, who spent a lot of time around him, who Michael trusted, come to me and tell me what they think of the site and endorse the site and tell me that the site is all about truth is amazing to me because of that, because it's it continually confirms God's placement in there. That this really is truth. This is really coming from Him. So that's why it's important to me. That's why it meant something to me. That's why I shared it with you guys yesterday, because it's not that I didn't believe it before. It's just that I've always believed it. But I just came out of a major struggle. 3 months of really tough stuff. Really trying to get through it and to get that information out to you guys. And the result of what you see is the result of a lot of struggle and a lot of tears and a lot of time. But it's truth, and that's what it needed to be out there. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from here. And I'm apologizing here already because I'm seeing we're going into 35 minutes. And every time I talk to you guys, I want to just talk to you for a few minutes and I go overboard and it just keeps continuing on. But when to backtrack a little bit about a story I was just telling you before, it was shortly before the site went live, and I was still struggling with some things. And I had come across, it had been a really, really awful day of just finding all kinds of stuff that just, if you were to read it online, the lies were so deceptive that it drew you in and made you think that there was a possibility this was true. And, Mike and I, my husband Mike, and I took a walk after and talked about it. And I was still very bothered by it. And, he went to bed. He had to go to work the next day. And I could not wind down. I just, I had this on my mind. I was so frustrated. And this was with the original, before I launched the original Reflections, back when it first came out. And I grabbed the Dancing the Dream book by Michael, and I just sat with it and looked through it. And I that book became a part of me during the whole creation of the site, because reading Michael's poetry and was another whole opening to a window to who this man was, in addition to seeing his videos and talking to people. And I came across a picture, which is actually the same picture that I have on the homepage of the site now, where it has the caption, was he guilty, was he crazy, or I forget how I termed it, I don't have it in front of me right now, or did you have it all wrong? And it's a picture right next to that, to the left of that. And I was looking at that picture in Dancing the Dream, and I just looked at it and not really speaking to him in particular, just kind of saying it out loud out of frustration. I just said, Michael, please, please tell me who you are. Tell me who you are, because I'm at a point of just breaking now, because I don't know what to believe. And within it's probably maybe like a minute or so, maybe less, I've experienced something that I've never experienced in my life. And it was like it was this rush of emotion, and I knew it was spiritual, and I just started shaking and crying. And it was like, basically it was like the feelings were betrayal, deep hurt. And I knew then it changed the whole course of what I was doing, and it gave me that confidence to know that the path I was on was correct. And all I remember saying was kind of just saying out loud to myself, I'm so sorry, Michael, I'm so sorry. Because I knew that those feelings somehow that and this is going to sound crazy, and if I heard it from somebody before this happened to me, I would say, my goodness, this person is a little off. But I knew that those feelings were somehow, I was being able to allow to experience what Michael experienced. I was being allowed to feel his emotions, because I knew those feelings weren't mine. They were very powerful. It's like being hit by a Mack truck. It was very, very powerful. And it changed everything. It made me know, like, okay, now I know I'm on the right path. And I believe that God allowed that so that it was his way of saying, here's a confirmation, you're on the right path here. And for me, Carrie's story yesterday was just like that for me. It was another confirmation, and let me tell you, God has continually confirmed what is on that site. He's continually confirmed the truth about Michael Jackson, and he has continually vindicated Michael Jackson, and I believe he will continue to do that. But the knowledge, someone confirming again to me and saying, look, Michael is in heaven. He believed in Jesus. He accepted Jesus as a savior. Huge. As I said, a huge confirmation coming at such an important time. And as I said before, I received some very, very, very nasty emails, and a lot of accusations towards me, because I have claimed that, because I have said that Michael was a Christian. It doesn't matter that Patrick Tracy told me that he was a Christian. It doesn't matter that other people told me that he was a Christian and that he was a man of faith. And these were, there's a lot of people that I talked to that knew Michael very well, who some have asked to remain anonymous, but I have checked them out. They're true blue. They are who they say they are, and they did know Michael, and they know him well. And so what I'm trying to say is not that it didn't matter that Patrick Tracy said this, but people would see that, and people would see that I made these claims from other people, but they would still attack me and still send me these really nasty emails saying, you have an agenda, you're doing this to make people believe this, you're saying Michael's a Christian, he wasn't. And you know it in your spirit, but it doesn't mean that all of these attacks don't have an effect on you. And so Carrie's confirmation was just an additional confirmation from God, again saying, listen, what's in this site, what you're saying, what other people have shared, what William Wagner shared, what Geraldine Hughes shared, what I'm sharing, there have been, what Patrick Tracy shared, there have been many people who have been saying, look, listen, this is who Michael was, and God continues to confirm that, and that's important, so gosh, I hope I've shared everything that I wanted to share with you guys today, and I went way over time, and I know this is a long time to listen, but I wanted you to understand why it was so significant yesterday, why that message was so significant. And it's not about leaving people out. It's not about condemning people. It's not about a vengeful God. It's about a very loving God, but a very just and holy God at the same time, because we all fall short. I sin, you guys sin, Michael Jackson sinned. Everybody has a sinful nature. I mean, think about when you're angry at someone and the thoughts that go through your mind. Most of us get angry at someone, and we have thoughts go through our mind that are not kind and not loving. And, so that's why God sent his son, Jesus, to kind of be that sacrifice, to take that, as a very visual, very, tangible means of, taking the brunt of, showing what is the price of sin. That's the price of sin. Jesus' death on the cross was the price of sin. Many people get angry with God, in the Bible, saying, well, I don't understand, why would he have people sacrificing innocent animals? God created these animals, but that was the point. These were innocent, pure animals, and God was trying to show the people that the cost of their sin, of not following love, not doing what he asked, because he knew that when you don't do what he asks, it leads down a destructive path. It will either hurt you or it will hurt other people. And that's why Jesus is called the Lamb of God, because he became that innocent sacrifice for sin. So, I hope this is making some sense, and, I'm trying to really speak from my heart, and I have so much on my mind, so much in my heart that it's hard for me to relay all this information to you guys, but I just want you to understand that this information shared by Kerry yesterday is really, really important, and not because I didn't know it already, not because I didn't believe it, not because so many other people didn't know or believe it, but because it's a confirmation. And so many of you needed to hear that. I know it. I heard from you guys. You guys told me I really needed to hear this. We needed this positive reinforcement today. And so, again, God continues to confirm. He always will confirm his truth. He's always going to confirm his truth. So I hope this helped you guys today. I hope my sharing, made a difference. And, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your support, for your love, for sharing reflections, so that people can learn the truth. I knew from the beginning that Reflections was a spiritual journey. I knew it was a spiritual calling. And I knew that, that it was, I knew its purpose was it had a multi-purpose. It was to bring out truth about one of God's own children, Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson was a child of God just like we all are. We're all brothers and sisters. And it had a deeper spiritual purpose as well. I knew that. I've known that from the beginning, and that's probably one of the things that is probably the most weighing and heavy and scary at times, is knowing that, But I knew that that was the case, and this is another confirmation of that. And I just feel very blessed. I feel very blessed for the people that God has brought into this. I feel very blessed for all of your support and love, for your sharing the site, for those who continue to seek the truth. And again, like I said, I just want to give you guys a heads up to just pay attention to what you're reading out there. Don't believe everything that's out there. Don't believe everything, even if it's on a site created by a fan. Don't believe everything that I say, or that's, test it. See if it stands the test of God's truth, because God continues to confirm his truth. And if God is continuing to confirm the truth, then you can pretty much bet that it's the truth. If he's not, then you might say, you know what, I don't think so. So just pay attention to that stuff. And it's not necessarily that the people sharing these things are bad or that they're trying to mislead you. They just might be being misled themselves, because it's very easy to do so. I told you guys that as I worked on this stuff, it's very easy for me even to feel like I'm being misled in different directions. And that's why I'm so grateful for the friends who have stood behind me and who have stayed by my side to keep me on track. Because, I need that. I need that just like all of us do. So, at any rate, thank you guys again. Thank you for all of this. Thank you so much to all of you who are donating to the funding of the site, because that's really important. It would really help us financially to have that site fully funded this year. It would take a weight off, financial weight. So thank you again. Thank you everybody for listening. And, let's, I know it's not easy to not pay attention to all the crap out there. It's not easy to not get upset about these stories that are out there, these accusations, that have come out and all those things. I understand that. I get upset too. But know that none of that stuff matters, because, Michael is no longer in pain. He's no longer suffering. He's with God. He is at peace, and he's okay. And while at the same time I feel for his family, especially feel for his children, because obviously, they're the ones who have to deal with this now, who are hurting, and we need to pray for them. We need to pray for God's protection over them. That's very important. But they can't hurt Michael anymore. I've seen so many times where fans will say, "Oh, they never leave him alone. They'll never let him rest in peace." And I understand that, because we hurt hearing those things. But Michael is at peace. You know, put that into your heart and know that that's the truth, because God continues to confirm that. You know, Michael is at peace. He's okay. So we don't need to worry about that anymore. We don't need to worry about, as Carrie said, we don't need to worry about his being, because he's with Jesus. So just, take that to heart, take it in, and know that everything's okay, and that God will continue to vindicate Michael. He will continue to bring about truth. He will continue to confirm his truth. Concentrate on that. Stay in the light. Stay in peace. And just, try not to let all the din that's surrounding you engulf you, because that's what it's trying to do. Stay away from it. Don't even read it. Really, don't read it. Stay away from it. Focus on the truth, and be at peace, knowing that Michael's at peace, and that and that you can see him again. Michael's okay. He's with God. So keep that joy in your heart. All right. So I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. All right. Love you. Bye bye.